I've tried everything from being on the TV show The Biggest Loser, where I lost 66 pounds, to gastric bypass, to low carb running, restricting, pre making your meals. I've tried everything. I can be 330 pounds and still not test positive for insulin resistant despite everything I've tried. Everything. And I'm willing to do really hard things. Sometimes something else is needed. If you've been watching, you know that I take my ingredients very seriously, but there are 3 companies that I have found that I absolutely love. Check the description for discount codes. Hello, my name is Adrian, and if you are new here, I have been on a journey to heal my body and to finally lose my weight for my whole life. And I've tried everything from being on the TV show The Biggest Loser, where I lost 66 pounds, to gastric bypass, to low carb running, restricting, pre making your meals. I've tried everything. And the thing that was the most help was carnivore. But today I want to talk about how, despite everything I've tried, everything, and I'm willing to do really hard things, sometimes something else is needed. I understand in my carnivore community, which I've been a part of for almost 2 years, that some people are going to unfollow me right now. You're going to just judge me, discredit me, and you're going to shut this off. But I'm pleading to you to just give it a listen, okay? I want to talk about all the hard things that I've done, and that sometimes additional tools are needed. And I would never add a tool that would ever make me sick. I'm only adding tools that could ever gear me towards healing. So let's just get into it. What all have I tried? Well, first, I just want to say, I know some of this is going to be repetitive, but some people, this is brand new. I've been overweight my whole life. There's never been a time in my life where people weren't restricting food from me as a child, saying that I shouldn't eat, that I need to eat less, that my eating is why I am the way I am. So even as like a 5-year-old, I had big fat thighs, I had a big pie face. I had kids that followed me around, called me fat. I had a kid that followed me around for years and said boom. That was his job, to say boom every time I stepped, because I was shaking China because I'm so big. It was a pretty rough upbringing at times. I was raised by a single dad who worked very, very hard. When I was in high school, to combat it, I just kind of started restricting as much as I could, eating as little as I could, and then playing sports nonstop, sometimes twice a day. I was in skiing, cross country skiing, and I was in track and field and basketball and soccer and golf. And I was in so many sports, and I kept so busy, and I just worked out as much as I could because I was convinced I needed to eat less and move more, even as a high schooler. When I went to college, I gained 60 pounds. Couldn't figure out how to lose it. I tried different diets, and eventually my dream came true of being a contestant on The Biggest Loser. Through that, I was actually very successful on season 3, if you go find it on YouTube, and I lost 66 pounds. But the second I went home, I had chronic fatigue, my metabolism was dead, and I gained 100 pounds. And from there, I even gained more. Through having children, I ended up at over 330 pounds, and I stopped weighing myself. So there were times, like 8 years, where I hid. I had shame. I had blame. This is my fault. I didn't work hard enough. I'm not good. As I'm carrying this 330 pounds, I'm just saying it's because of me. I'm horrible. And I never knew this whole time that something was going on, which I would love to go into later. So I run and restrict 100 pounds off again. So I've lost 66 pounds, then I lost 100 pounds, then my weight starts going back up. Even running half marathons, pre-making all my food, eating low carb, restricting how many calories I eat, I start going back up again. So then I asked some of my Biggest Loser alumni, because we have a group, and there's more of us out there can have this conversation with you. But I said, what's going on? And they said, gastric bypass. That's the ticket. So I have gastric bypass. Is that the ticket for me? No. It gave me chronic hypoglycemia, never-ending anemia, nutrient deficiencies, inflammation, my autoimmune getting through the roof, my chronic fatigue is getting worse. I can't lose weight. And I'm going to the doctor. I'm saying, hey, I'm eating the 900 calories. I'm running half marathons, but I'm actually gaining weight. And they did not say, hey, your metabolism's dead. They didn't do hormone checks. They didn't do thyroid checks. They didn't run antibodies. None of that. They just said, oh, you must not be tracking right. More self-blame, more self-blame. So as my hypoglycemia got debilitating through a 10-year cycle, I start cutting more and more and more. Eventually, you guys, I end up so chronically ill. That's something, I got to do something.
And in my brain, this whole time, it's all about food and it's all about restriction. And I'm going to be honest, there's times where I feel that I was definitely, I think they call it orthorexic, where I'm afraid of food. I'm afraid of things. I'm afraid of addiction. If I just restrict enough, that will cure it. So I did some really hard things, but into my illness, I ended up with long haulers and it zapped my brain. My brain has been debilitated ever since. I also have a brain injury where I slipped and I hit my head, the back of my head, left my body, came back in. There's trauma between my upbringing. Parts of my upbringing were such a blessing, and parts of it were tough. And then a traumatic divorce. There's so much more. Living in moldy buildings. I can no longer drive because I'm not falling asleep. I'm getting lethargy the second I start driving. My arms and legs are going numb. I'm having food reactions. I have no memory. I start having neurological symptoms, which at the time were terrifying because it was literally terror. Every night I would have terror and I would have these intrusive thoughts. Sometimes as I was driving, I would have intrusive thoughts. Or after I would eat, I would have such bad food reactions that my head would like disconnect from my body. It was like my head was floating and I was looking down at my hands and they weren't connected. It was very, very bad what was happening. It was very scary. And what was even more terrifying is to tell the people around me that these things were happening and then look at me and go, "You look fine. Do we need to take you?" You go to some of these symptoms with your doctor. The whole time I'm like, "Hey, I can't lose weight." What do? They say, "Oh, you seem kind of depressed. Here's an antidepressant. Here's an anti-anxiety." Nobody ever says, "Oh, let's really dig deep into your thyroid and your hormones." They say, "Oh, yeah, you seem real sad, but this will help." And it doesn't ever help. I had this looming anxiety in my heart for years, 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 years. I couldn't get it to go away. And I'm going to tell you, I know that carnivore isn't for everyone, but for someone who has such horrible, debilitating autoimmune, it has been so great. It got that feeling in my heart is gone. I'm pretty level. Anytime I have emotion, it's just because everybody would have emotion. My kid gets in trouble at school repetitively. Oh my gosh, this is stressful. I feel a little anxious about like, what can I do to help my kid? We lose a family member. Oh my gosh, I'm really sad. Normal emotion, but that overwhelming like feeling in my heart that I had for my whole life is gone. Another thing, I had chronic constipation and they just kept saying more fiber, take this supplement, do that supplement, more water, blah, blah, blah. And it just does not stop the chronic constipation. And the tooths, they were just so horrible smelling. Like it was so bad for my marriage because I refused to sleep in the same room as my husband because it was so bad that I didn't even want him breathing it in. And since carnivore, that's gone. So it's a great diet for everyone, but I also understand that it's not realistic for everyone. I'm also not dogmatic that everybody should eat the way I do. I think we need to eat the way that is best for you. And I know that we are all out there experimenting based on the knowledge that we have and based on how we feel. And so this is not a dogma thing. The fact that that is a really good ticket for me. But there were some limitations to the carnivore diet for me. And one is I have struggled with my weight even on this. And I know you guys have seen me and you're like, "Oh, she looks great." From here up, yeah, it looks great. Especially as I gain weight, when I'm heavier, you'll see my makeup gets darker, my eyeshadow gets darker. And then as I lose weight, that kind of goes away and I gain it, you'll see the eyeshadow get darker. You go watch Lioness Lifestyle Live and you'll see my makeup. But this is behind the scenes. I'm quite puffy. I'm struggling. And I thought it was only here and there, but as I look, I had a scale that would automatically download it. As I look, I was struggling like the whole time. And so I would hit the low of 153, but I was in the 170s like 3 times, like over and over. So even with carnivore, my diet's going up, down, up, down. So some people in my community would say, "Oh, you just didn't do it right. Like maybe you're on the route macros for you. Maybe you're at too much of a deficit. Maybe you're not at enough of a deficit. Maybe you need to mouth tape." This can go on and on and on. We can make this more and more complicated. And carnivore can get so complicated as we bang our heads against the wall trying to make this permanently work and be the solution because it makes sense that it could be the solution. So I tried all the things, including sardine fasting. There were times where, like last summer, not this summer, but the summer before, I ate sardines Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every day of the week. And I did that repetitively. And then on the other days, I played around with calorie deficits. I also walked 12 miles a day. I got in the sun, in the fresh air, and that did help me lose the weight. But the second that I stopped it, it slowly started coming back up. I also tried Lion Diet. And that is where you just eat ruminant meat, water, and salt. And it worked. until it didn't. Like 35 days in, I gained 14 pounds of inflammation, even though I didn't change anything. And I continued. I was like, maybe if I just keep going, it'll, like, maybe this is just part of healing. And so I just kept going, and the weight just kept going on. So at that point, I contacted my doctor. One of my illnesses here, my symptoms of why I came into this, is something called chronic inflammatory response syndrome. You'll see a lot of symptoms, like, there's a lot of different things going on here that it can be, and symptoms. So I start this protocol, though, that I need to not live in a water damaged home, which is why we just moved here. And you can see my pile of, I need to make a cupboard right there. You need to watch your air that you're breathing. You need to take specific binders to pull it down. And so we got this mold illness going on, and I started getting perimenopause. So my whole carnivore journey, I'm also trying to heal this mold thing, which is the long haulers, which is the chronic fatigue, which is the autoimmune, which is the Hashimoto's, which is the blah, blah. So my hair is falling out, my nails are falling apart, my hormones are in the tank, my thyroid's in the tank, the lion diet doesn't fix it. He runs my numbers. He finds I'm so inflamed, my inflammation's through the roof. And it turns out, on top of all this, that I had an issue in the place that we were living. So we've moved. At this point, though, if lion diet doesn't work, what am I supposed to do? And I'm sorry, there's no way, like, I don't know any human who, if 35 days in, they gain 14 pounds of inflammation, their perimenopause is through the roof, who's going to go, I need to do more of that. No, that didn't work for me. It was not right for me. I think that you need more nutrients. The second that I ate salmon, it was like the best thing I ever eaten. I think that we need more than just ruminant meat. I think we need more. So after the lion diet, though, that's when my wheels started turning. I also saw some of my friends struggling, a lot of them, all of them. My friends were struggling. And so it just started making the questions in my mind. Does carnivore really work to cure obesity? And here's another thing. My hypoglycemia is better, but if I eat a carbohydrate, I still have hypoglycemia. So to me, it didn't cure my hypoglycemia. It put my hypoglycemia into remission unless I eat something besides meat again, like even, let's say, green beans. I'm still hypoglycemic. I still can't eat other things. So it's not curing it. It's just making it so I don't have those symptoms anymore. My next thought is, I have people in my family who are so overweight. Am I really going to expect them to eat nothing but sardines and walk 12 miles a day? I mean, most of them have jobs and go to school, and they don't want to eat sardines. Like, is this really a realistic expectation, even if that did cure it, that this is what's going to happen? Because I just don't think that's realistic for our overall population when like half of our kids are overweight at the school. Are we really just going to make them sardine fast and walk 12 miles a day? So these thoughts start going through my head of like, what am I going to do? I can't do another carnivore challenge after challenge. I can't do it. And my heart's not in it. This doesn't seem to be the ticket. I had the thyroid medicine. I continued to gain weight. So that wasn't fully the ticket. I add the bioidentical progesterone, which for each person, maybe you need estrogen, maybe you need testosterone, maybe you need progesterone. You know, it's different for every person, and you need to seek a specialist to ensure that you are getting the right thing. But it was game changing day one. Day one of having that added boost, I felt like I was human again, but still weight gain and still no weight loss. And it's not just about weight loss, it's about the inflammation. It's about the continual weight gain. It's not even about weight loss. It's like, I just want to stop gaining. Please, God. You know, Oprah had a special and she said, it's like holding your breath underwater. I'm really, really hardworking. I can hold my breath underwater for a really long time, but the second I come up for air, which doesn't require carbs, which doesn't require binging, it just requires stop doing the extreme things, my body just goes. So this summer, I ended up gaining 30 pounds. I wasn't eating carbohydrates. I was still eating carnivore. I just stopped walking so much, and I stopped tracking my food. And that doesn't mean binging. Again, it just means, like, I bet you anything, some days I was only eating 900 calories. So this isn't like it's just, you stop the extreme things and my weight just starts absorbing it back up. And so I have to do hard things to just not gain weight. So to me, that brings me to what some people say is called the reduced obese. Yeah, I'm smaller than my 330 pounds, but I'm still struggling with what I think is potentially a disease, a switch, a something. It will not let you not gain. Like, it will just, it's not processing energy right. And it just wants you to gain weight. I've seen people come into carnivore, like my dad. he just ate meat. He did do some intermittent fasting, but he wasn't tracking his food. He just ate meat and he lost 60 pounds. That didn't happen for me. So I don't think it's a lack of carnivoring harder. It didn't work like that for me. And I don't think it works like that for a lot of women. I think it's a great way to eat. I think it's the most nutritious. People don't realize how bioavailable the nutrients are in meat versus plants. Plants, the nutrients are often in a different form and our body has to convert them. So we don't absorb as many of the nutrients as you think that we are. They also can be inflammatory. They also can come with oxalates and lectins and other things that can cause stones in your body and issues and inflammation. So I'm all about like seasonal plants because that was very primal, but I think meat is primarily what our ancestors would have ate. It's the least inflammatory and it's the most bioavailable nutrients. But I'm not here to convert people. I'm just saying I love meat. So for some people, they lose weight, and some people, they just sit and struggle. And one more thing that was in my brain is I recently went to a conference and I saw so many of my friends still struggling. I need to give it more time. I didn't get sick quickly, so I'm not going to heal quickly. In my opinion, I think the switch is flipped. You were sick at 150 and gaining weight. You weren't just sick at 100 at 250. You were sick long before, and that's why you got so big, because something got up, the switch got flipped. And so you gained and you gained. But the second that you started gaining, that's when the illness started. And so it's a switch. It's not a slow thing. I think it's a very quick thing, potentially. I don't know. I don't know what's causing the switch to flip. And that's what I'd like to know. But anyway, so I'm optimizing here. I'm optimizing thyroid. I'm optimizing my hormones. I'm optimizing my diet. I'm in the sun every day. I'm exercising. I'm optimized, but I'm still struggling. So what can the next ticket be? And that's when I saw a podcast by someone I very much respect, Dr. Amy Horniman. And I'm going to, if you check my playlist, you'll see a playlist and it has this along with the other research that I've done in there. So I watched this with Dr. Amy Horniman, who's a thyroid specialist, hormone specialist, and amazing at really getting people to where they need to be. I have so many friends who've worked with her and they just, it's the ticket. She is good. And she said, hey, there's a miracle out there called GLP-1. And I was like, what? No? You mean that appetite suppressant pharmaceutical drug? They're losing all their muscle and their guts getting frozen up? That? And she was like, yeah, no. There's a healthy way to do it. And it is not just an appetite suppressing drug. It is actually a peptide. And we already use peptides. Does anybody else take collagen? Does anybody add collagen to your coffee, to your milk? That's a peptide. Does anybody take insulin? That's a peptide. Peptides are natural to our body, very similar to a hormone. So it's kind of in the same category as you're taking thyroid medicine, you're taking hormones, you can take a peptide. It works with your body underneath to heal things. It is not, people are not just losing weight because they're starving themselves. They are losing weight because underneath at a deep level, it is actually fixing something that's off. And on top of that, there's all kinds of benefits that come with it. So I hear her go on and on about how amazing this is. And I'm like, what? And so first thing I do is go, I kind of need to balance this opinion out. So I go and I watch something. It's Mark Hyman, Dr. Tina Moore, and not Dr. Casey Means. He's the big food guy that's come out and said, hey, did you know big food is trying to kill you? And that they're in the bed with the he'll go on. And I'm like, Casey Means, he'll set me straight. So I watched this and Casey's got the first part and he's like doing really good. I'm like, so true, yes. And then Dr. Tina starts talking and I'm like, what? There's a way around all this stuff and it's actually healing people? And so after that, I went over to her podcast and she has a playlist called Ozempic Done Right. Now, go to my playlists after this. There is a playlist that I put together of all my favorites where I got like really intrigued and informed, and it's called GLP-1 favorites. And we've got Dr. Amy in there, we got Dr. Tina in there, and we've got a few others because there's quite a few that are out there. At this point, I can go into all the benefits, but here's some of the doctors that are on board with this and saying, no. This is actually healing. This is not a drug, which is, I thought this is just like all those other things they've given us that always come with side effects. But we have Dr. Tina Moore, Dr. Stephanie Rimka, Dr. Amy Horniman, Dr. Boz, Mrs. Keto Queen, who's very, very scientific, Dr. Ovadia, Dr. Saives. There's a guy out there named Dr. Jones DC. There's a bunch of doctors out there who've come out and said, no, if you actually dig into this, this is actually healing. What are some of the things that can heal? Well, this is when Dr. Tina said this, I was like, where do I sign up? She said in her interview or her debate with Casey, she said, what about my mold patients? Have you ever treated a mold patient? They cannot lose weight, our mold patients. What about our chronically inflamed people? What about our autoimmune people? And she said, this actually helps them. And I was like, huh, nothing helps me. Okay, so what are some of the other benefits? Number one is this huge one. This is huge. Inflammation. Do you have puffy hands? Do you have a puffy face? Do you get a puffy gut? You're inflamed. Do you sometimes fit your shoes and sometimes not? You're inflamed. Our kids are inflamed. Everybody's inflamed. Why? Because of lots of reasons. So this actually reduces your inflammation. And in my first 2 weeks, I peed around the clock and I lost 15 pounds of inflammation. I was highly inflamed. Next, it works on undiagnosed insulin resistance. And what do I'm saying here? Have you ever had thyroid issues and you go in and they run a TSH and they send you home? Or you go in and you have some kind of symptom and they run these vague tests and they tell you you're fine, and maybe they give you a little antidepressant, anti-anxiety, and they just use vague and they tell you you're fine. So many thyroid issues are underdiagnosed. I believe that insulin resistance is undiagnosed. I think that there are people who will never, ever, ever test positive for insulin resistance despite having it. I believe I am one of those people. I was recently at an insulin class and they were talking about there are some people who continue to build fat cells, and there are some who are the fat cells they have. Those are the people who become insulin resistant. I'm going to just throw my husband out there. He will never get fat. He eats the standard American diet. He eats fried foods, and like sometimes I just look at him and I go, because I know how I would feel if I ate what he eats. He'll eat French fries and noodles and wash it down with like a liter of soda. So he's eating all this sugar and he doesn't gain weight. And his fat cells are full. He doesn't build anymore, but he's getting black circles under his eyes. He has skin tags. He has high blood pressure. He has sleep apnea. He has indicators that he has insulin resistance. I would love to know his A1C. I'd love to know. But me, on the other hand, I can be 330 pounds and still not test positive for insulin resistant. But at that point, you obviously have an issue processing your energy. There's obviously an issue. If and at this class they were saying he even had 550-pound people who were not testing positive for insulin resistance, but obviously there's something wrong. Here's another reason I know I personally have insulin dysfunction, because I have this hypoglycemia if I eat anything except meat. So obviously there's a dysfunction happening and I need help with that, but there is no help until this. Okay, so I believe if you are struggling to lose weight, you are dealing with an energy processing problem and you have some level of insulin dysfunction. I know people who literally will eat 600 calories a day and gain weight. I know another person who's a bodybuilder. It's a girl. And I mean, I'm sorry, you can't burn as many calories as she's eating. She said she eats 10,000 calories a day. How long would it take to weightlift 10,000 calories off? It'd take a long time. And yet she weighs 93 pounds. So she can process energy properly versus the person who's eating 600 calories and gaining weight. They are not processing their energy properly. So in our community, in the carnivore community, we're told, oh, you just have to heal your metabolism. You got to eat fat. You got to play around with your macros. You got to vary what you're eating. I don't know. I see people doing that and they're still struggling. So I just don't think that that is the ticket. So some other things with these peptides, because there's a whole bunch of them out there, you guys. The only reason Big Pharma has this is because they saw, oh my gosh, jackpot. And they ran a bunch of studies and got the patents on it. People have been playing around with peptides for years. They have patents, but the patents are being challenged because this is stuff that has been played around with for 20 years in the body hacking community. And so, the two drug companies took it over, but it's not a drug. And I wonder how this is all going to go, but that's another topic. What else does this do for you? It regenerates your brain. And that too, when she said that, and I've got this brain fog and I've got these brain issues, it regenerates your brain. It reduces your neuroinflammation. They're saying this is going to be amazing in tiny, tiny, tiny doses for potentially people with autism, because of the healing benefits of the brain, the reduced inflammation. It also heals your gut. There are people they have lactose intolerance and gluten. I know they're telling us that it's the opposite. This is horrible for your gut, but it actually heals your gut. And I am a testament to that. Prior to this, if I added creamer to my coffee, I gained weight. I drink creamer in my coffee every day now. And I drink the whole thing and I still lose weight. Another thing, it generates your muscle. Why are people losing muscle? Because they're under eating. They think we have this mindset in America that the problem is that we're not eating like toddlers or fasting all the time. They don't call it fasting. That the less we eat, the better we are, and that's the problem because we ate food. That's not the problem. It's an energy processing problem, and it's also what fuel are you picking? Your fuel is also a problem. But this can actually, in smaller doses, with weightlifting, with eating your meat, you need complete proteins. Not, you cannot, and I mean, even the creators of my favorite company will say, you cannot just have whey protein. You have to eat complete proteins as well. That's a great supplement to add on top. It's very nutritious, but you have to have complete proteins, which are found primarily in meat. It has Alzheimer's prevention. So if you have people in your family who've dealt with that, this actually helps you prevent Alzheimer's. The cardiovascular, all of these things that I'm telling you aren't because you lost weight. None of them. You can go on this. You have no weight to lose. The gym bros are on this. They don't have weight to lose. It's actually a regenerative, more of like a hormone supplement for you. So you don't have to lose a pound to get these benefits because it's actually working underneath. When you have gastric bypass, when you go on diets and they say, "Oh, this is going to make your health, it improves your health." It's because you lost the weight. It's not because of the mechanism. In this case, the mechanism is what's making you better. Let's see here. It also helps with non-alcoholic fatty liver. I have a friend whose tremors stopped after starting this. The tremors are gone. I have another friend who every time she would go for a walk for even, let's say, a mile, she would get the runs. And this went on chronically. And she's continuing to go to the doctor, get her GI mapping, and they can't help her at all. She went on this and that's gone. So this really heals your gut. It heals your gut lining. It heals so many different things. Okay, so let's talk about side effects, because the thing you guys are saying right now is, well, yeah, but you're going to get gut paralysis and pancreatitis and you're going to lose all your muscle and all those. Okay. So we already went into the reason people are losing muscle is because the standard dosing is to dose you. You're going up, let's say, Trizepatide, and we'll go into the two different. You at 5. 4 weeks later, they have a 7.5. 4 weeks later, you have it at 10. 4 weeks later, 12.5 and 15. So in 6 months, you're at the top dose. You're on these mega doses. And the entire time, I've heard people say this. I've had friends who've said, I can't eat at all, but yet they go up in dose. So if you can't eat, why would you dose up at all? Why wouldn't you lower your dose? But no, the standard protocol, the studies are to dose up, dose up. So people have no appetite. They're having slower gut because they're so overdosed. They're having gastro issues. They're nauseous because they're just so drugged up. They're like, it's not a drug. Just like you can overdo thyroid medicine, you can overdo peptides. They're amazing and they're potent, but in smaller doses, you can still get a medicinal thing. I take low dose naltrexone. At a high dose, it's used for stopping addiction. At a low dose, it's used for reducing inflammation and a whole bunch of other things. So the poison is in the dose. That's what Dr. Tino says. And I based on my experience, I think that's true. Let's see here. So that's the muscle loss. The pancreatitis and the paralysis. A lot of this stuff that's happening is because the population that's getting approved for these, that's going on these, is already very, very sick. By the time you have diabetes, you've been sick for a very long time. There's damage to your cells, and these things are happening because you were already sick. They were going to happen whether you went on the peptide or not, probably. And so you're dealing with a population that's already susceptible to this. Another thing, again, is the dose. The paralysis has happened in a lot of people who, A, were already prone to it because they had done so much damage already, and B, because they double dose themselves. I think even if you stayed on the standard dose, it's possible that that's just way too much peptide and you're putting yourself at risk. And we'll go into like, how did I decide what my dose is? But let's see here. Constipation. I would question, so I didn't have, I'm good, but another person I know who's taking it does have constipation, but they don't eat like I do. So I would question, like, are you drinking enough water? Or are you just drinking soda? Are you eating a bunch of fried foods and sugar? Or maybe is your dose too high? I don't know. Constipation's a pretty common one, so I'm not saying that's not going to happen to you, but maybe if you stay lower and you eat your proteins and you drink your water, maybe that can be remediated. It just hasn't been an issue for me, but I do understand that's possible. So yeah, a lot of the side effects are because of the mega doses, mega. For some of these benefits I was talking about, people just take droplets. Okay, so I did a lot of video journaling and I'll post it, but I'm going to warn you, I'm mad because the second that you try a low dose of this effort, you stop looking at it as, it's like putting on glasses and you realize there's something off in the brain, and that's the difference. It's not a lack of effort. It's something is actually off, you guys. And I don't think just simply restricting your food is going to heal that thing that's off. I don't know anything else out there that can heal the thing that's off. What has my experience been? So I added this to my protocol. So this was just an additive. It wasn't like a, hey, I added it to my high protein meat based diet. It was a supplement. And in the beginning, I continued to carnivore hard because I was like, I'm going to throw the kitchen sink at this. That's the type of person I am. I was walking 12 miles a day, 4 or 5 days a week. I was lifting 3 days a week. I joined a challenge that was very low fat, high protein, and I stuck to that meal plan. So I threw the kitchen sink at that. That's what I did month one, and I whoosh, right? Month two, I added this whole time I was intermittent fasting. Then I added 2 to 3 day fasts. Why did I do that? Because there's some theories out there that if you do the fasting for the few days, you have more autophagy and more healing. And then the other days you have to refeed. So you have to eat plenty of food those other days. So I'm thinking, I kind of like all or nothing. That didn't work for me. My hormones are just way too fragile for that. That actually made me very, very sick. So for me, the fasting didn't work. But if you're out there and you're not chronically inflamed and you don't have 10 autoimmune illnesses and your body's not under attack, that might be one of the methods you use. It didn't work for me. So what did I end up doing now? Honestly, I just eat carnivore. I just eat my meat. I move my body when I can, and I just go about my life. I've been able to add a few things back, which is including the cream and the coffee. I've added back my 0 calorie sweetener of choice, and I eat my meat and I go about my life. I do not have to carnivore hard for this to work. Now, I want some realistic expectations here. For me, what's really easy is hard for other people. Like just eating meat is my thing. It's what I've been doing. It's easy for me. Sometimes I'm at, like, I lean into my days where you have a little bit more suppression, a little bit quieter, and I will maybe eat 1,400 calories those days. And then the days where it's less, I'll go ahead and make sure to boost my metabolism and be eating 2,000 calories. So it varies how much I eat just based on where I'm at and how I'm feeling. The week before my cycle, I was ravenous every day. I ate 2,800 calories a day. When that time was over, I had a whoosh and I still lost weight. Am I saying that you can eat 2,800 calories a day endlessly and lose weight? Probably not. But it's been working. Another experience I want to share with you. So coming on this, it actually I kind of feel, I know some people are going to cringe when I say this, but I feel like a dude. Dudes just go carnivore and they lose their weight. A lot of them, not all of them. Some of them, the switch has been flipped, way too flipped. And so they're in the same category as a lot of us women. But some men, they do it, they lose all their weight. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Yeah, they're doing the hard things, but they don't have to like play around with it and do challenges and do all the things. They can just eat their meat and lose their weight. That's pretty much been how it's been for me since this. I want to say some of the things I used to really crave no longer seem that amazing to me. Like an example would be sugar-free jello. I used to crave sugar-free jello. Now it's been in my fridge for a while. My kids are chunking away at it. I used to crave the purple Ready Whip cam, which is sugar-free Ready Whip. Now I sprinkle a little on top of my coffee each day. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. You don't see me doing any drive-bys. What does the medication feel like? To me, it feels like nothing. But at the end of the day, I go, I didn't snack today. Crazy, weird. I didn't even think about it. It's not like a thinking thing, it just happens. Another thing is intermittent fasting has become so much easier. It's easy to just eat my meals and be done, and eat my meals in a window and be full and be happy. So that's what the experience has been. I went on a cruise ship, and this was the most amazing thing. Cruises, for people who are struggling like I have been, are your greatest dream come true and your worst nightmare, because there's food everywhere 24/7, and it's good food. You can find good food. It's so good. I don't have to eat something like boring. I can eat something good, but it's also nonstop. I was getting crabby because it was like, I don't want to stay at the pool any longer because it's time to eat. Oh, I got to plan my day around when am I going to get my meal? I don't want to skip one. Like, they're so good. And it, like, the obsession the whole time of like, ooh, I should run down to the cafe and get another one of those. I should get some more of that lunch meat or whatever they had. Ooh, I should go down and get the toppings off the Sorrento's pizza. Like, it's just nonstop. It's like your best friend and your biggest hell. Every cruise I've ever gone, I've had just the best time of my life. And I also leave feeling like absolute crud because I'm so bloated. My belly's out to here. I'm looking pregnant. None of my clothes are fitting me anymore because I'm so inflamed and I'm so full, but yet I keep eating. And then I have to skip a meal and I'm sad about it because I'm just too full. And this cruise, it was amazing. I ate my steak, put some butter on it. That's like, ooh, nice, and I was full. As a treat, I ate my piece of cheese off the cheese plate. I did indulge in a couple sugar-free treats, which have carbohydrates because the ship is standard. It's like going to Walmart and buying keto. It's not like how I would ever make keto. But anyway, I had that. Everything was great. I want to talk to really very important to me. This is so important for every single person out there who's had gastric bypass. Do you have chronic hypoglycemia? Are you kind of on the verge all the time? Are you kind of afraid of eating things because your blood sugar is going to drop? That's me. I have it to a very extreme level to the point I cannot even eat plants. And I'm not saying I want to integrate this into my life every day, but I did an experiment. We went to the Apple Festival, and since my surgery, my joy in the Apple Festival is being with my family while they eat things that they love and are experimenting with that are seasonal and wonderful and glorious. And I cannot eat any of it. And this year I had a piece of apple pie. I know the carnivore police are coming. They're coming. They're coming. Maybe even the keto police are coming. It was an actual piece of apple pie. And I didn't get hypoglycemia. That's the first time since my surgery. First time in 11 years I did not get hypoglycemia. It did, honestly, then I had sugar cravings for the rest of the day. It still wasn't optimal. Like, it's not something I would play with every day. It's not something I need to integrate into my daily life, but it was nice that at a seasonal event that's a tradition for our family, once a year, every year, my whole life, I got to have a piece of apple pie and I didn't die. I think Dr. Kiltz talks about sometimes he eats regular ice cream. I could have that wrong. Maybe it's carnivore ice cream, but I can't have honey. A lot of, people who are whole foods based can eat honey, and that's totally acceptable. If previous to this, if I ate honey, that would make me very, 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 very sick. Potentially a brain injury, potentially in the hospital. It would cause the hypoglycemia so bad. And my hypoglycemia can last for days. It's not a one meal and done. It is. I recently tried to add some testosterone based on my symptoms with my doctor, and I had hypoglycemia for a week and a half despite not eating carbs. So my hypoglycemia is also hormonal. But other than that experiment with testosterone, this experiment is great. It has enabled me to, in the real world, sometimes you can go and have scrambled eggs and they add pancake batter. And if I accidentally had contaminated eggs, I would have hypoglycemia for potentially a week. So to be able to go and just, like there's nothing else around, it's not optimal, but I want to eat with my family and not be the one. Tired of being the one. I'm always the one. No seed oils, no gluten, no sugar, no anything. I just need just plain meat boiled in water. It's nice to not have to be the one. So those are some of the things that have happened immediately. The reduced inflammation, my brain feels better. Can you see how fast I'm talking? My brain is working again. The weight loss is actually happening with the work without having to be extreme. So many great things. I mean, this has been amazing. This has been the ticket. And then I did go into the food noise, how I'm not snacking. The noise is just quiet. Now, some people ask, like, so what am I doing exactly? Like, how am I not having nausea? I've never once had nausea from this medicine. I've had two issues, which I'll go into. I started out at the starting dose. Some people would suggest you start at half the starting dose. This is just me. This is not medical advice. Started out at the starting dose. For me, that was great. It was fine. For other people in my family, that was too much. They had to back down to like if the starting dose of Trizepatide, which I'm doing the Trizepatide, if the starting dose is 2.5, that person ended up at 0.8 before their symptoms went away. They didn't like, none of us want symptoms. So we went down to a point where we don't have symptoms. So that person went down to 0.8 and has slowly come up over the last 3 months at the starting dose. And then I stayed there for a month. And then I played around with going up 0.5, going up 0.5, going up 0.25, then down 0.75. Because I was like, I never want to not be able to eat, because even that little very healthy exercise of fasting was horrible for my hormones. So for me, I need to be able to eat. So I just play around little tiny increments. I'm currently at 5. I think this is the most I'll ever be on, because I'm pretty much to my goal. I'm very close to my goal. And I think from here, like, I feel so good that if I do feel, I mean, I'm still a size 8-10 in my pants. I'm still probably 27 to 31% fat. So I have fat to lose. It's just, none of this ever needs to be. I have a funny one for you. I'm not saying I don't know if you're going to like this, but some people are. I don't want to lose so much weight that I lose my hair. Been there. That I lose my thyroid, my hormones. Been there. That you go into starvation mode. Been there. Don't want any of those things. But some people will say losing too much weight is like having too much money. It's a problem I deal with. But I honestly, I don't want to lose my hair. It takes a long time to grow your hair back. I lost when we moved into that townhome and I got really, really sick, I lost at least 2/3 of my hair. It's very thin. I'd be fine never losing a pound again, but I do still have some weight. It's not up here. The weight seems to start here and you lose it like this. So I got some booty and some legs in my size 8-10 pants. There's two different ones that you can do right now that are out there. There's semaglutide. There's actually three, but I'm going to go into the two common ones: semaglutide and Trizepatide. Semaglutide is just GLP-1. Trizepatide is GLP-1 plus GIP. So it has two different ways that it's working on you underneath to help you with that inflammation, to help you with that insulin resistance, to heal your brain. Dr. Boz talks about how she prefers the second one. I've heard so many doctors say for women over 40, the second one is more helpful. There's a lot of people, especially people who are pre-diabetic, diabetic, who semaglutide just doesn't work for them. But Trizepatide seems to be more of a ticket for them. I want to tell you, like, let's say you try these and the weight just doesn't, you're still struggling. There are like 50 more that are in trial that are coming out. There's ones that have 3 different ways that they work on you underneath. There's ones that have 4 underneath. There's ones you only take once a month. There's ones that it's going to get better and better and better. So I would just give it a try. Now, I've heard statistics that this works for like 99% of people. But some people have to make lifestyle changes for it to work. Some people, and I say this in like a little bit of like a way, is they can drink their wine and eat their pizza. They just drink it, eat it in smaller portions, and it still works for them. But they're the ones that lose the muscle. They are the ones too that if they ever come off of this, which a lot of people do, you're going to gain all your weight back because you didn't make lifestyle changes and you lost your muscle, so you lost your metabolism. So I always suggest, and so do so many doctors, that let's go into the plan in a little bit. Okay, so there's 2 different. I'm doing Trizepatide. Well, how are you going to get your hands on this? You could go through a doctor if you're diabetic. There are some insurance companies that will cover it for obesity, but they're changing things like you have to be a BMI of like 40. And then they'll have crazy things like you have to lose so much weight or they take you off of it. And then potentially once you lose your weight, are you still going to have coverage? And they're changing it every single day. So getting it through insurance is horrific. It's a nightmare and it needs to be fixed. There's another thing that needs to be fixed, which is like nobody else really qualifies for it. This also helps with PCOS. There's so many people who could benefit from this, either proactively, preventatively, or, at the place that they're at. Now, after watching the research, I don't think people should wait until they're 330 pounds to give this a try. If you're starting to gain weight, that's the start of it. It's only going to keep going. So why wouldn't we be proactive before you become so far down the road that now you're dealing with issues? The switch is way flipped and we're jamming it back. We're struggling. This reform needs to be done where this needs to be covered for so many different things. And I don't want to be political or anything. This was the industry I worked in, hospital payment, clinic payment for United Healthcare, a very large insurance company. And then I moved to one of the largest hospital clinic systems in northern Minnesota, and I did the same work on that end. And I did auditing and I did contracting, so legal and financial. So I really saw how the payment moves. I also saw that, our PBMs are what are setting the pricing. They're owned by the insurance companies, and then the insurance companies are saying, well, if we have to collect all that money, we're going to have to increase your premiums. There's a big, really, really, really bad problem here. Why are the prices so high in America? Because we don't have a free market. Like, I'm sorry. That's probably not something you guys want to hear, but it isn't free market. You would know ahead of time, this is how much it costs. And you could decide, do I want to go to that doctor or that doctor? I recently went to the eye doctor for eye appointments. They didn't tell us that they were going to charge us $743 per person for 5 people. Yeah. And then the insurance company didn't cover it. Yeah. So they want me to pay that. If I would have known that ahead of time, like in a free market, I would have went to Walmart where they charge you $40. Clearly, I would not have gone to the place that charges $700. And the whole thing is very, very broken. I'm sorry that I got political there for a second. But so right now, if you don't have insurance coverage and you want name brand, I think the sticker price is like $1,600. Through a coupon program, you can get it down starting at $650. Who can afford that? First of all. Secondly, this is like very systemic in family. So multiple family members need it and they cannot afford that for multiple people, even if you could afford it for one. That's insane. So this is through the name brand companies. This is not attainable for America, and so many people could benefit from this medication. It's not a medication, it's a peptide. So many people could benefit from this therapy. So then where do we go? I personally have found two different telehealth companies that I'm like trying to figure out which one prices the best, and I'll stay with whichever one has the best price, but also the best service, the most reliable, using the most competitive, state regulated, reputable compounding pharmacies. So the two that I use currently, I'm not using them both at the same time. I'm looking into them both. Lavender Sky Health, they're based out of North Carolina, and they are bulldogs. Through this fight that we're going through, they have said, we're going to continue on. We're going to do everything we can for our patients because people need access to this. They've also had the best pricing. They do not have a subscription. You pay for them to refill. There's a refill processing fee. There's an appointment processing fee. If you'd like to get some labs done, I think it's pretty affordable, $250. You get like a ton of labs done and they mail it to your house. I recently did that at LabCorp. It was for half of those labs, it was $1,200. So they have these offerings for you. They're amazing. They're very responsive. They have a lot of great communication throughout all the time. They've kept us informed. We know behind the scenes they're fighting for us. It's my favorite company. But I recently saw that joinmochi.com, that they just started $199 for Trizepatide, even if you dose up. Now the catch there is they have a $79 per month subscription fee. So you kind of have to add that out. As a starting dose, that might not be a great deal. As you dose up, if you're at 15 milligrams, and other companies are charging $800 a month, they're going to still charge you the $199, is my understanding. I've heard too that they send out coupons too. So sometimes it won't be $199, sometimes it'll be less. So that seems like a really good deal. Another thing to weigh out there is I think you can only buy it per month, where Lavender Sky, you can buy it 10 weeks at a time. And eventually when you're in maintenance and there's other options, you can buy 6 months at a time. So different options. I like them both. If you decide to try Mochi, I'm going to put my code down below and you can save $40 off of your first order. And then as you tell your friends how amazing you feel, you too can get a code and help them save money, or you can give them my code, whatever you want to do. So that's kind of how you're accessing it right now. Now I want to say I'm on Trizepatide because I want to throw the kitchen sink at it, but my whole family's on semaglutide. All of them got to their goals, including my type 2 diabetic mother. Could not lose weight no matter what she did. She's kicking herself. She's thinking she's bad. She didn't try hard enough. She goes low and slow. They tried to up her. She wouldn't do it because it gave her symptoms. And she was like, I don't want symptoms. So on semaglutide, I think the top dose, and I could be wrong, is 2.25. She has stayed at a 1 for like 2 years and lost like 50 pounds. And her A1C has come down into normal range. She did it low and slow, even with the diabetes. So that's my thing, is this could be so medicinal. This could be one tool in your toolbox that you add. Maybe some people need help with an underlying issue that's not being diagnosed. What is the plan here? Here's what's so great. In Carnivore, you can just make this so complicated and you can try so many different things, and you can watch all the doctors who will tell you the different variation of all the things to do and the different meal plans, and you can just make it so complicated. This is easy. Eat meat, drink water. You're going to need some electrolytes. They say that this does something in your kidney that actually can push some of your minerals out. So add some electrolytes. My preferred company is Salty, SALTT. If you use my link, you can save 10%. My favorite is Coco Loco. I can drink that every day, all day, and I do. Get your minerals in, get your water in, eat your meat, and lift heavy stuff a couple times a week. That's the plan. Now, if for some reason you're still overeating, which is possible, because you're going to acclimate to this medicine, you may want to look at the deficit. For me, I just lean into those days where the food noise is really quiet, and I might eat less those days, and then I eat more the other days. You want to keep your metabolism happy. When I look in the groups, I see people saying, I'm stalled, and it's because they put themselves into starvation mode really quick. I do want to talk about one more thing about dosing. There's a lot of talk about microdosing. I think microdosing is so wonderful for people that it works for, but for some people, there actually is a GLP deficiency, and a microdose isn't going to be the ticket. It's not necessarily going to get you to all your goals. Like, I felt nothing at 2.5, but my family member was like, oh my gosh, I can't eat, I'm gonna die. That's not really how they work. Another thing with the side effects, and I should tell you my 2 side effects before I sign off here on my first little talk here. They talk about this permanent problem. No, I mean, this medicine kind of has it kind of comes up for 2 days and then down, 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 down. And so let's say you took way too much and you have gut paralysis, it would last a day or two, and then it should come back down as the medication comes out of your system. It's temporary. Let's say you had the nausea. it's temporary. It's as the medicine up and down, but please don't dose yourself like that. Please don't make yourself sick, please. I mean, I think nobody wants to be sick, so I'm not too concerned about that. Like the minute my family member had any symptom at all, including my stepmom, they just backed right back down, way down, and said, I can come up slowly. Like there's time here. My side effects, I've had two. And one of them I'm not 100% sure has anything to do with the shot, but I'm going to list it because I have a friend who also had these two exact symptoms. Which, by the way, sometimes people say the more symptom you have, like the more it's working for you. But I wish I actually could retract that because I think that's BS. Anyway, because I haven't had any symptoms and it's been working amazing for me. And I should show you some pictures and stuff too before One is fatigue. You know that 2 o'clock, I need a nap feeling? I had that in the beginning a little bit. I did. And so did my friend. Like, and some people say every time they dose up, like, let's say up slower. I don't know if this always happens, but if you made a pretty big jump, that symptom might come back of like, oh, I could just take a nap right now. That's your body acclimating. And in the first couple of weeks too, how you feel there is not how you're going to feel the whole time. That is your body's like adjusting from a dysfunctional level to a more functional level. And that doesn't feel good. The adjustment sometimes, like, because your body goes, I don't know what's going on here, you know? And so that adjustment can feel different, but that's not how you're going to feel the whole time. I promise you, it's not. So then the next one is I had some depression, but I want to put in here that I've been in mold exposure while having mold illness. And the depression came only when I was fasting. So I question if I would have that if I'm fasting on this or off this, because my thought on this, it's very chemical. It's not a missing of food thing. It's a very chemical depression. And I just question if I'm flushing so many fat cells that my body's purposely been holding on to because it stuffed things there that it didn't have the energy to deal with. And when you extinguish those fat cells, this happened on The Biggest Loser, and it happened after gastric bypass. When you extinguish those fat cells, you're flooding your bloodstream with things your body did not want to handle. So when I'm fasting and I tried a different peptide on top of it with that, which I don't know if I should tell you or not, I tried AOD 9604 with it. So I'm like really forcing fat cells to extinguish quick, and it flooded my blood with stuff it didn't want to process. And it only happens when I fast. And so that's another reason that I've stopped fasting. I don't need to fast. I intermittent fast, and that's good. So those were my two symptoms, but they're gone. I haven't had them in a long time. I stopped the fasting and I haven't gone up in a big dose in any way. Okay, let's talk statistics. I'm still talking. I'm sorry. I could talk about this all day and night. So if you guys message me, I'm on Instagram. That's where I'm sharing a lot of this. I share a lot of stories. I'm trying to get on TikTok, but it's really slow. I don't know. Posting everywhere is a lot of work. But Instagram, Adrian K. Gledhill, that's where to find me. I'm posting in my stories every day about the ups and downs of this. But I want to show you, I started out, I was 184 this summer. I joined a challenge. That was a keto challenge, carnivore challenge. And I got down to 176, but I was already starting to go back up. Like it wasn't lasting. So that's when I started this. And this is what I looked like. This is still me carnivore. This is still me walking 12 miles. This is me just a few days ago. You can see this was after eating cream cheese, which used to cause me to look pregnant. Okay, here's my past year. You can see in the beginning of the year, I'm doing challenges. In between challenges, I come up. And then you can see my summer. Well, you can see what happened where Lion Diet just tipped me over and it just went up, up, up. And then you can see what's happened since adding the GLP to my carnivore diet and my exercise. Here's kind of my dosing. And this doesn't mean this is going to work for you. Like literally every body is different. Literally every body is different. And you can see here too, I lost a lot of inflammation. And then I was carnivoring hard. So you can kind of see I still keep going down. Then I stopped carnivoring hard, and you can see the up, down, just like everything else. But it's, if you just stay consistent, like I'm still working on downward. I think this morning I was 142. Here is me at the end of the summer versus me literally this morning. Like it's very compelling putting the pieces together. And unlike, am I going to breathe? And you're like, I got momentum, and you're going to use that momentum to keep going. But like the momentum's kind of stops working. And you're like, oh, I'm still going uphill. I'm still going. You know, that's not how I feel right now at all. This is the deal Mochi has going on. And this is on top of their $79 a month subscription. And again, I will put the code below if you want to save $40 on your first. Here's me decreasing. Now, I don't know how accurate this fat is. This is from the Renfo scale. Man, I have so much to talk to you guys about. I want to share, the apps I use, how I tracked my experiment. I'd love to share my food logs, but again, this is me before. This is me at the end of August. Now I'm just feeling so much better. I'm going to keep sharing about how adding this tool to my toolbox has been life changing. I'm going to keep sharing how carnivore for me still is a great tool in my toolbox that I can't imagine changing. I wonder if the optimal way to do GLP-1 for the 99% of people is a low carb coupled with your GLP-1, ensuring your thyroid and your hormones are optimized. That's what I'm wondering. Join my Facebook group, message me, share this with anybody you know. If you know family members who are mega dosing, maybe they should consider looking at this and seeing, like, even on the smaller doses where I can still eat plenty of food. I mean, on the cruise, I was eating 2,800 calories a day. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and share. Goodbye.